Hello and welcome back to Art and Soul. Today we have an alcohol ink project that I think is going to be a lot of fun. The premise for this project, if you kind of want to follow along with the, more mindful, thought-provoking part of a project like this and not just the art. Granted, if you're here just for the art and making a mess, welcome, follow along. But for our concept today, we're looking at kind of a mid-year check-in. A lot of times we think about setting goals and things like that only around like New Year's and things like that. But now might be a good time to ask yourself if you're sticking to the kind of things that you would like to do in your life to create the kind of lifestyle that you would like for yourself. So maybe a good question to ask is, what would the best version of you be doing with the rest of 2023? So this could be anything from lifestyle changes, social changes, fixes around your environment, anything like that. And for this project, we're going to be making a flower with alcohol inks. And for each petal, we're going to be thinking about something that we'd like to make sure we have in our lives. Okay? So it's kind of a visual representation of all of the different parts of you. And if you have those things come together, how they're going to bloom. All right, and welcome. So we are getting started with our supplies here. This is a special paper for alcohol ink. It's a little bit resistant. It's got like a coating on it that keeps the ink from just being absorbed straight into paper like it normally would. If you were going to try this on drawing paper or watercolor paper, the inks are not going to move. You need them to be able to flow around, so you're going to need special paper for this. This is the brand of alcohol inks that we're using today. I'm not picky about any of this. This is kind of a newer venture for me as well, so we just took what was highly recommended. This is a set of 24. It's plenty of different colors to play with, so I think we're going to have a lot of fun. So, as we're going here, we're going to start in the middle, and you're going to need some rubbing alcohol. I did not know this the first time for this project, so you're going to need this, which makes sense because it's alcohol inks. You'll also need, for a first time, you'll need like a little pin like that to open all of your alcohol inks as well. So just be careful and be prepared for messy dye-stained fingertips. We can already see we've had fun with that today. And always be mindful of what you're wearing if you care. Okay, so the way we're going to be doing this is starting off adding our colors in the middle and letting them kind of bleed out to the edges. And then we're going to go in. You can either use one of these little alcohol ink blower things, or you can use a hair dryer. We're probably going to use the hair dryer just to go a little bit faster. What I am going to do over here, I don't want to go all the way to the edge, so I'm going to remove a little bit of this on the side just so that I don't have ink moving over into that space. So I want to get these to move around a little bit. All right. We're going to just go around the perimeter a little bit at a time with this. Doing another little layer in the middle. This is the part where, if you are newer to alcohol inks like me, and things didn't turn out quite according to what you were hoping, that's okay. We're gonna move through that regardless, because the point of this is not to make beautiful art, it's to make something that's actually meaningful. So for this, we're gonna go back through, and what I'm using is a gold acrylic, and we're just gonna go through and kind of outline our petals. And as you're doing that, I want you to be really mindful and think about what each one of these petals could signify for you. So when you're thinking about that question we posed earlier of what would the best version of yourself be doing with the time that you have this year, throughout your lifespan, I always like to put things in a smaller perspective. It's a little bit easier to wrap your mind around. Just be thinking about that. What does each one of these petals represent? So if you know that you need to be spending a little bit more time outside, that's something that would be good for you. Maybe that's something that you're thinking about as you're outlining these petals. Maybe if you have a pet, especially if you don't get to spend as much time with them as you'd like. Maybe one of your goals is to be spending a little bit more time with a pet, or spending more time doing things with them that they like. Maybe longer walks, a few more trips to the dog park, stuff like that. This could also be more time spent doing something that you find relaxing. Maybe this is do more art. Maybe this is go get a massage, especially if that's something that you haven't done before. It's nice. Maybe this could also signify a time for you to start accepting more help from other people. Maybe that's part of what your growth, part of what blooming looks like for you. It could also be finishing the projects that you say you're gonna finish. Doing the things that you've always said you were gonna work on. If we've got a bunch of half-complete projects, it's not a shame thing, but it's when you look at them, how does that make you feel? Is that a version of yourself that you want to maintain? Or do we want to start doing something about that? Do we want to see our ideas and our dreams come into fruition a little bit? Maybe you have some nutrition goals. Maybe cook more. Or cook better foods. Or new things that you haven't made before. Do a little bit of novelty seeking. Maybe this is a reminder to clean up your environment a little bit. If you've got clutter sitting around the house that's been there for a little too long, find people and places that could make better use of it than you. Doesn't mean you have to throw things out. It means that you find a place where those things are more valued. This could also be maybe maintaining better habits, like sleep. It can be tempting to watch our favorite shows into the wee hours of the morning, but is that actually good for you? And sometimes when we enjoy watching a favorite show or something like that, and I have nothing against a good binge, but sometimes when we do that, it starts to become a routine and it doesn't really feel like a treat anymore. So by restricting yourself just a little bit, would it actually enhance the quality of what you're doing? Don't know. It's just a question for you to think about. Also, a lot of us have fallen into this after all of our lovely time spent in quarantine. Sweatpants. Best and worst thing ever. So if you've kind of fallen into a rut of, kind of wearing the same stuff all the time, which there's nothing wrong with, but if it's something where maybe dressing up and getting cute was something you really enjoyed and was an important thing to you, and you've just fallen out of the habit, well, why is that? If your values have changed and it doesn't matter to you anymore, that's one thing. If your values haven't changed, but there's some other reason that we're not dressing up anymore, maybe look at that. Why is it happening, and do you want it to change? Especially if it's an important way for you to express yourself. Is there a reason you're not expressing who you are in that manner? If you got financial goals, things like that to work toward, are you actually making progress toward them? Are you working on them? Maybe there are some other things that you want to prioritize. Your health, more time with friends, more time doing novel activities that you haven't done before, new experiences. If you've got a bucket list sitting around somewhere that you haven't looked at in 3 years, why not? If you've got some destinations that you want to travel to, especially if they're relatively local, why haven't you gone? And get really honest with yourself about that. Like, really, why haven't you gone? If you're getting frustrated with yourself, and yes, that is a real thing. If you are frustrated with yourself and some of the things that you do, instead of being upset or being hard about that, being hard on yourself about it, maybe just look at it as an opportunity to change. It doesn't have to be a big shameful thing. Just, okay, I recognize that this is something I need to do differently. What am I going to choose to do about it? And I don't really feel like outlining all the way to the edges on this. I kind of like the flowy, watery edges. So I'm just going to do a little bit more in here. And this really just gives us a little bit more definition on this particular piece. And if you want, you can go in and kind of create a little bit more depth to some of the petals and do a little bit of like shading and stuff like that. If you want, if you feel like it. So as we're wrapping this project up, putting final touches on, what I want you to think about when you step back and look at this is what it would look like for you to commit to yourself, commit to not letting yourself down, keeping promises to yourself, and actually allow yourself to bloom. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for hanging out, and we hope to see you again next time.